All right, so see a couple of people trickling in again. If you folks can let me know if you can see and hear me in Zoom. All right, perfect. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Just loading up the YouTube. So anybody has any questions right away they want to start to fire off to me, by all means, do so. I think, we'll continue to do this as we have, where we're just going to kind of leave it a free open session here. You folks asking questions to dry the content. So. All right. Hey, Mike C, what's happening? All right, very good. Got all the chat panels set up. And let's see, just in case anybody wants. As far as YouTube, if anybody wants to come to the Zoom side of things, I placed that link in there for you too. It's been some plays out there today. Been a tough day overall, I'd say, for anybody looking for swing trades. Just kind of is what it is. But there's definitely a few things that moved around today. I don't know what's happening here on some of these races, but it looks like there's a lot of inverse ETFs. Yeah, beta bear, some more emerging markets bear, small caps bear, China bear, finance bear, SPXS. I think everybody knows that one. So bears are now really starting to have their way. It looks like really starting to have their way. So we'll see what that means. We'll see what happens here. So, all right, let's see here. As far as the Zoom side goes, I'm going to enable microphones across the board in Zoom. All right, so, just 3 of you in here on the Zoom side. So feel free to jump in on the mic if you're comfortable there. A question: when using Brokerage Plus, I'm having issues getting a trade to order when I click a symbol from top list or graph. I have a brokerage account active enabled. Best to avoid any alerts in the act window. So, all right, if you were, let me give me 1 second here. So I need to move something here so I can bring Brokerage Plus over.
So Chris, I'm here. Is it okay if I just kind of talk through this? I know that was a little.
Yeah. No. By all means. So I'm just adjusting something here on Brokerage Plus so I can bring it over and demonstrate actually as well.
Okay. So I still get a little confused between Holly and Brokerage Plus a little bit. Now, Mike, tell me if this is right, but only Holly will actually kick off a strategy on her own. With Brokerage Plus, having the alert in the strategy window isn't enough. You actually have to send a symbol to Brokerage Plus in order for that trade to order. Is that correct?
So 2 things. Let me make sure that I get you clear on differences here. So there's this here that I'm on right now. Let me bring the drawing tool over. I'm going to put a pink X on it. This is hello drawing tool work. Sorry, my drawing tool's not going for some reason. Okay, this window that I'm right clicking right here, that's Holly, that's her trade. So think of this only as an alert window of Holly. Then you have the brokerage plus window that you can control Holly from for actual, whether you're attached to your brokerage or you're in simulation, the Holly AI tab. All right.
Okay.
You can right click and trade this way off any of the Holly alerts, but they'll be based off of actually strategies that live in the strategies tab versus Holly strategy, because you have to, there has to be a trading instruction attached to it, how many shares, how your share sizing, stop, so on and so forth, because this is more considered more of a manual trade versus than if you were here and just enabling these strategies. The strategies themselves, if you enable those, have a set of instructions to them. And then the same thing if you were, right clicking a symbol from an alert list, bring up an alert window. Of course, it has no alerts in it today. That's not going to help our cause. We can use a sector list here. All right. Right clicking here and trade, the same thing. This is going to all work off of strategies inside the strategies tab here. So if that's what you're doing, you can either use one of these pre-configured ones here and you'd right click, go to edit trading strategy. And you got to first attach the account here. So when you click accounts and go to account, whatever brokers you're connected to, it'll see the account. So there's two parts to connecting Brokerage Plus. One is the broker that happens here, and two is selecting the account also. Just want to restart my drawing tool. So that'd be pen. All right. So that's one of the places that people get hung up is they connect the broker, but they don't connect the account. And then you can go through trading instructions here. And so these are guidelines. You could do anything you want here. You could change these around and even rename it. So if you decided you wanted to change this to, buying 1,000 shares and no stop or anything like that, just rename it whatever you want. You can change the order details, risk management, all these things like that, right there inside that strategy, or any one of these. If it's Holly you want to just make the trades and enter them, then we would right click in the Holly tab of Brokerage Plus, go to edit long instructions, and very similar concept, a little less to work with here. We're going to attach account again here. We'll select our risk mode, moderate or conservative. Our position sizing, are we going with an X amount of dollars, X amount of shares, or basing it on the stop loss, meaning, we'll risk X amount of dollars based on the stop loss that Holly is always going to be putting out there like that. And then our order type, market limit. I suggest leaving the limit last price as the reference, because when the orders go out, they need to reference something without a fill. So it's going to go off the last price traded when it sends the orders out, actually. And then limit offset and time enforce is very, typical time enforce broker. So going through that, does that point you to something else that, or, did that cover any of those things? And do I need to go more in depth with any of those things or separate anything still for you?
So based on what you're saying, I think the Brokerage Plus is more what I'm interested in doing right now rather than Holly.
Okay.
And so number one, if you create an alert, Brokerage Plus, and you have it active and you've enabled your brokerage and you've opened the account inside like you showed that you have to do, and from a top list or a graph or somewhere, you've right clicked on a symbol and you wish to send that symbol to your alert in your strategy, basically, to kick it off. Now, one question I have to start with is if your symbol that you send to that alert, if it does not meet the conditions of the filters in the alert, will it ignore what you just sent it?
Nope. As if you use one of these strategies, or even one that you created like yourself here, and you simply right click it and send that order, you'll send the order all the same.
Okay, because that seems to be what I'm having a problem with, is I'll send an order with everything enabled, with the account active. But when I send it to the alert, it shows in the window, in the alert window, you'll see the symbol, but the order won't be placed. I know that I've got the account active, both enabled and active. And I think, and to me, I must be just forgetting some kind of step. Does it wait for an alert? Like if you send the symbol to that strategy, does it wait for an alert to trigger before it sends the order, or does it send it right off?
No, if you're right clicking, so I'm going to do an example right now. It's 100 shares, whichever one that is. So we're going to press OK. I've set it all up, and we're going to go to buy the USO using that. So if I right click that and I go to trade and 100 shares here, it should push that right out. We should see that order come in now. There we go. All right. And so there's my closing orders. And did I get the fill? Yes, got the fill right here on that right there. So that should go out just like that for you. And I did that at a market order. So just as long as you have all those items connected like that, they should be going through for you. And then if you want it from the chart, in the strategies tab, we'd have to right click and set as default chart long or short if it's a short strategy. Obviously, this is long in this case. So here, and now you can see that buy goes green for me. And I could press buy, and then I'm gonna place the order using the crosshairs, and then we can see the order came out right here. So there's the fill, here's a stop, or here's the limit order.
I'm willing to admit that it's a possibility that the amount of shares that's being generated may be maybe I don't, because I already have shares filled with something else. Maybe I don't have enough capacity in my account in order to fill the order.
So you can check here. It might tell you that in the messages here. All right. If you'd have that happen, you should get some kind of message here that'll say something, rejected. And you could also even come into the orders and an orders tab, and it'll say rejected in here. So check in here.
Well, I'm in the orders tab and I don't see anything generated at all. So that's where I get a little confused.
Okay. And you're using one of these like a strategy that's like this in here.
One of my strategies that I created from an alert window.
Okay, I see. And
then you load the alert window from the cloud into the strategy box.
Now, all right, I got it. Let me see. I've never tried like that. I've always just done a blank one when I'm going in versus that, because usually when people load things in like that, they are looking, they're looking for automation in that. Add to existing. Let's give this.
Okay.
Let's see, new. Let's go edit trading instructions, entry time. So you might want to check what the entry time is. That might be blocking you. But all right, I'm going to do this all the same here and see if I can't get this to trigger. Simulated trading, save, because I've never actually done this before. So we're doing this together. Based on stop, we'll risk $100. Risk management, that's all set.
Chris, if you had an agenda, I don't mean to.
No, I have no agenda. Whenever I'm going to attempt to do an agenda, it's because, I was expecting, like I said, some of these, there's 80 people signing up, and, right now there's 6 of you here in Zoom. So, there's no point in all of you, most of you, at least, I recognize the names for most of you. So you've been here a few times, and I don't, there's no point in me, showing some of the stuff that I would normally share anyways, like that, and waste your time on things you already know. So when it's this few people, I'd rather just enable people's mics like I've done. Go through, I see a couple of people just joined, enable all those mics and let you folks kind of, plug at it any questions that you have here. So, all right, we've got this all set, configured. All right, and now I want to do this and see if trade buy off high. Well, and see if those orders went through. All right, so those orders went through. Now let's see if I can move the order to get it filled. No, it won't let me move the order. It's going to be based, I think. Oh, no, there it goes. I got it filled. So yeah, you should be able to get that filled. Right? Was that XLV? No, I didn't get that filled. Did I? What did I send it through? Did I send it through for the VXX or did I send it through XLV? Sorry. Yeah, no, it went through. And filled right there too. So yeah, just double check the trading instructions, because that'll go through. That should go through. Here's where it may get tripped up, is if it's for an alert that came through. This is what I just realized. If it's for an alert that came through, it might try to trade it on the last price at the time of the alert. And that's where you might be getting hung up, and that the price is now too far away from that order. Do you follow?
Yeah, wouldn't it show as an order, but just not filled at that point?
Yes, it should still show as an order there.
Yeah, see, I'm not even getting an order showing up. So I must be doing something wrong. I don't want to waste everybody's time, so I'll just keep playing with it in simulation mode until I figure out what I'm doing wrong. I did notice something that I never see when I'm trading this way is how you get an option to trade at a particular price. And I'm not sure how to do that. It just—
Sorry, say that again. I didn't catch part of that. I'm sorry,
So
Fred.
when I go to trade, it just says trade. It doesn't say trade at such and such price. How do you indicate what price you want to trade at?
You're talking about in the strategy itself?
That's correct.
So it's going to be, based on here. So in the instructions, order details. That's where the reference comes in for last price.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I saw a price where you actually gave it a specific price that you wanted to
off the chart. Off the chart I can place it somewhere. So I can go off the chart and I can press buy and I can place it up here like this. And now now it's going to wait for it to trigger here, and I could, if I didn't like that there and I'm trying to get a pullback, I could bring that down here.
I see. Okay. One last question, and then I'll stop hijacking the meeting the best I can anyway. So if you wish to send a trading instruction through to the strategy through either from the graph or from a topless window, but let's say that you've built your alert to where it's keyed off of maybe a hammer or a check mark or past a resistance point or something. Where is there a way to send something to that alert, to that strategy, but say, I want to send it, but I want to wait until one of my alerts actually kicks it off. I don't necessarily need to kick it off right now. I want to wait until it hits, until it passes a resistance point, or
you could, instead of doing a market or a limit order, you could use a stop limit. So essentially, so limit orders or stops work like this. A regular stop that most people think of is actually a market order with a price trigger. The price trigger is your whatever the number is. So if I said I had a stop at $10, what it really means is if the price hits $10, a market order is sent to the broker to fill on market. So whatever that happens to, whatever market price I can get filled at. A stop limit is saying, if this price triggers, I want you to send a limit order at, if price X triggers, I want you to send a limit order at price Z. Now price X and Z could be the same, or they could not be the same. Do you follow?
So what you're saying is this basically hits a stock that's trending upward if you're doing a long. And so you're waiting for it to go into build some momentum of some manner because it's heading upward, right? And then but then you're limiting in terms of how you fill.
Right. So here, I'm going to give you an example. So we've got minus 0.5. So, all right, oops, minus 0.05. All right. So I've put a stop limit here. All right. On this strategy, risk 100. I think I'm on risk $100. Let me make sure I'm on the right one. So risk 100 at stop market low. All right. And we'll set the account. We'll go to simulated trading. And let me just make sure I've got all the other stuff that I want in here. I don't think we need a stop loss for this or anything. I just want to demonstrate the entry. So enter stop value.
By the way, not something to cover now, but just when it makes sense to you to cover. I'm really interested, especially when you trade off the gap, gap uppers in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
How you determine, because it seems like when you're doing gap uppers in the morning, you would want to do a trailing stop so that if you want to have a little more of an aggressive play rather than a conservative play that hits at the first stop loss, but actually has a stop loss that follows the candles upward. I would be interested in hearing how you do that with upward gaps.
I don't really use trailing stops because what I don't like is when something whips down, hits that stop, and then takes back off again. You know, I kind of do my own like manual trailing stops. That's how that's, you know, a personal preference of mine. But what I would say is if you're gonna do that, you know, you want to keep in mind the volatility of the stock. And so that you don't get whipped out by a bad candle that, you know, it's been whippy like that the entire day. Do you follow?
Yeah, I've seen your demonstrations where if a stock does go up, that you'll change the stop to be like a break even point. So that,
right, and I'm just doing that manually always.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so this is what I actually want to show you for the stop limit. So let's just say we came across a stock that we want, and we say if it breaks a certain level, I want it. Instead of doing it in the orders, the strategies tab, what I would point you at instead is this here. We can go here and we can go stop limit, all right? And we can say buy, and then here's the limit, you know, here's the trigger price to send the order, and then we can, you know, put a limit price in here too. So we go, you know, 32.45, let's just say, because we're kind of near there. And now watch, whoop, we need a quantity, sorry.
Where is that window?
This, oh, you have to be on the latest beta now. You have that function, but it looks different in the, you're probably on 0.69 or earlier. The latest beta is 0.76, I think, for you. I'm one up because I'm testing some stuff. So if you go to help about, you need to be on 5.5.76. It's right on the download page. Look for the beta versus the Trade Ideas Pro.
But you said there's an equivalent window that looks a little different, but functionally does.
Yeah, you'll see something that says stop on one of the sides there, and that's essentially what I'm doing here. It just has a different look and feel to it is all.
Okay.
I don't know if you currently see it or not. If you can see what I'm referencing. I don't even know if I have an old picture of it to show you.
How stable is your beta product? Does it make sense, you think, for for most of us to go to it?
Personally, I think everybody should always be on the beta. It's just a personal preference to me. Generally speaking, I don't ever see any issues with it, but you know, everybody has to kind of a to each their own type of thing.
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to put an order in for something here for myself. All right. You know, I've had a few people comment in the past, you know, oh, I don't want to be a beta tester for you, but it's not about beta testing. It's just when we have something new that we think internally it has been testing stable, but you know, it hasn't, but we haven't been able to, you know, put it out to the public yet, but we, you know, we want to test it with the public too. You know, internally it looks good. That's when we put it into a beta, but some people don't want to, you know, participate in that. But generally speaking, the legacy software should continue to work fine. It's just the stuff that's the actual beta, the new stuff, that's where the issues could arise. If you follow. Trying to find a screenshot also to show you what I'm referencing here of what the old system looked like.
That's okay, Chris. I'll catch up later. I see there's a couple other questions in the chat window.
All right, yeah, give me a second and we'll circle back on it. But here in this here, I just want to show this example. So look, I now have a stop limit. So we got a stop limit. The price that has to happen to send the order is $132.34, and the order will get sent at $132.45. So if I press send now, all right, see how that order came up here to $132.45 on my screen? And so that's essentially, you know, sitting there and lying in wait to get me entered if the price rises to there. So it's a way to say, like, if I think something's moving up, but I don't want to buy it until it's moved up to what I consider a breakout level. That, I think that's what you were asking before. And so you could go through anything and put those orders in like that. You know, if you had, whether it was a top list or anything like that, you don't even need it attached to a strategy. You could just say, oh, well, you know, stock ABC alerted from scan XYZ, but you know, I'd like to see it take out this level above, or you could even do it vice versa and say, I want to see it pull back to this level and put in a regular limit order that way too. Instead of trying to get fancy with strategies, you can just put simple orders in that way too. With this new feature here, you can also add stops and targets as bracket orders too to be sent out. So this is it's pretty nice, this new addition that we did like this. So, all right, let me circle. I'm going to circle. All right, how to use shorts, feeling the pain, how to enter trade on these ones. Also, calls, more options scanner. So let me pull up. Let's see if I can do this with a docked window. Excuse me, a docked channel bar. Let's see, short squeeze. So as far as the actual trading of this goes, I mean, that's going to be entirely up to you. But you know, we can do any of those things that we were just looking at. So I'm going to duplicate this window into a free floating window. Bring this over and get rid of this so I can keep my charts up there. You could take any one of these, and the same thing I was just showing, you could use any of these strategies to enter it. They're hooked through Brokerage Plus, all right? But as far as, you know, instructions on you should make the trade like this, that I can't, you know, I can't tell you, I can't advise you how to enter a trade in that sense. You know, you're going to have to, whatever your plan is, whatever you're, you know, it breaking a condition or anything like that. Look, this is not.
So my question is like, it falls in the window when it comes first time. How to know that?
Oh, okay. There's no timestamp on the top list windows. The top list windows refresh every 30 seconds. That's the difference between a top list and an alert window. So alerts have an event in them, like a new high, a new low, check
Oh,
mark or, some kind of candle pattern that might be attached, kind of, I think we have hammer candles or something like that as candle patterns. Those are how alert windows work. Top lists are only if we come into the configure, they're only filters. So every 30 seconds, it just goes back and forth to the server and returns every single stock that meets the criteria of that filter. So there's
oh,
no
okay.
real way other than constantly staring at it to know
Oh,
that the stock popped on there. That's what you were saying. I'm sorry.
no problem.
Yeah,
And
up
and
here it
also,
has just that time frame, so we can see how it's adjusted like that right there each time.
okay. So so these are good to go. We can enter once I see it, I can enter, or we still need to study or something.
If you feel like it's a good move, enter it. If it meets, these are the things, especially I would say for newer traders, you should be able to answer these questions, and you'll answer them quickly, as more quickly as time goes on. Why am I entering this trade? What gets me and in this order, they should be probably in this order. Why am I entering this trade? If this trade goes wrong, what price am I exiting at? If this trade goes right, what price I'm entering at? And there's sub questions to each one of those that happens
Okay.
afterwards, but you should be able to answer those 3 questions before you enter anything. And the reason why question number 2 is our stop loss, and even you can even say it's question number 1, is we want to know what we're risking. All right. The why we're risking is, why do I want to enter this trade? And while managing a trade to the upside is also, a skill set that has to be, learned and tested through, whether you have a system or you have, you're always looking at a 3% target, or you're looking at, a 2-bar move up, whatever your time frame is, anything like that.
Okay.
You want to always have a plan, because all of a sudden what happens, especially for new traders, is you enter a trade, and if it's something fast, and I know people are very drawn to low floats and they're moving very quickly, and you see how it can explode to the upside. But what people discount all the time is that those low floats can explode to the downside too.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a plan to the downside, all of a sudden people get panic stricken when it makes a big move against you like that. I'm trying to find something that might have done that today. Well, we can even, we could use this as a guide here from the other day. So MGY, this stock has been great. It's actually something I've traded in and out a whole bunch over the last several months, and it's been on this great move that's up like this. And then all of a sudden, the market's been moving up, and everything looks good, and energy is strong because it's a natural gas and oil exploration stock. All right. And then all of a sudden, you're like in here this day, you're like, you enter, and it starts moving against you. And you don't even have a plan for it moving against you. And you're like, well, I'll just wait, for 26, and then 26 breaks and it starts to wick up above it. And you're like, well, now it's getting back above it. Maybe I'll wait. And then all of a sudden, boom, these next 2 bars happen, in the next 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And all of a sudden now you went from, you were hovering around that 26, and now you're at 20, 25, 50. And you went from, you were at a $50 loss. Now you're at a $75 loss. Now you're at a $150 loss, and you still don't know where you're going to get out. And then all of a sudden panic starts to set in for new traders. And you're like, well, all right, but well, it looks like it had some support here at 25, maybe I'm looking at. And then all of a sudden, you're at this 25 level, and you don't get out, and it bounces back to the 25 level on close, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to take it as a swing trade today. And then the next thing that happens, and I'm telling you this from literal experience that I have had, the next day it opens up, and it opens up, from this 24 level all the way down to 20, 23 and change, and moving right back down on you again, and you still don't have a plan to get out. So that's why the first plan that needs to always be formulated is your out plan. And no matter what, you cannot bargain with yourself in that. You can't move the goalpost back, or whatever you want to call it, because that's how you turn a $50 loss to a $75 loss to a $250 loss. There are many different ways that people like to go about setting stop losses. Something for intraday traders that can be very popular is the bottom of a previous candle. Whatever time frames you happen to like. It's one that I used to use. I don't use it quite as much, but you might say, all right, well, this made this move up and I like it here. I'm going to take the bottom of the previous 15-minute candle as my stop. Other people, might use the low of the day as a stop, especially on gapped up stocks. That becomes very popular. Some people will use a moving average, whether, I have an 8 EMA and a 20 SMA here. Those are just two examples. Someone, might like Bollinger Bands and use the lower Bollinger Band as a stop. So just to give you some different stop ideas to think about, test, and see how the price reaction works on that. And that's where I would lead you in all those things. But don't kid yourself either. While your stop is just as important, having a plan formulated to get out is just as important, I would say, to the upside, because one of my biggest things, I was very good at obeying my stops at the beginning. Once I got, once I had a few bad things happen, I realized stop must always be, I can't mess around with that. But then all of a sudden I'd have winning trades and I'd be like, well, now when do I get out? I'm up $50 or I'm up $75, I'm up $1,000, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do I want to hold on? Do I not get out? And, it's greed and fear are the two things we have to satisfy. Greed says hold on, fear says get out. And I can't tell you how many times, I've had a winning trade. I entered, let's say, I entered here and somewhere on this candle, and I'm like, oh, I'm up. This is great. It had a little pullback and now it's moving up. Oh, it's fading. It's fading. No, I'll just wait till the next candle. I'll just wait till the next candle. Next thing I know, I'm below my entry again. So have that exit plan. Something that helped me was, taking off a third of my position or taking off half my position once I was up, so let's, if I took 100 shares and it moved up $1, maybe I sold half of it and took $50 home. And then maybe, let's just say I had, a stop here and here's my entry and it made it up to here. So I took out half here. All right. And then all of a sudden, it's moving back down this way. Well, there's no reason to have my stop down here anymore. So maybe I figure something out to stop, 3/4 of the way up to meet it. So I'm still keeping some profit, but giving myself some leeway for a pullback to move up again. So now, I've guaranteed myself this. And if anything goes wrong, I've locked it back in this way. And so these are different ways to satisfy greed and fear. And again, there's different ways to determine these, whether you want to use a moving average level or a pivot level that you might see with your eye. For me, just looking at this chart, something my eye goes right to is this 24 level. We can see that there's been, price action that's moved into it. We could see that, the price really hovered there mostly that day. It came back, smacked it today, today, couldn't get through it, pulled back, smacked it again, couldn't get through it. So we know, whole numbers in general are always a pivot level. It's a mental thing for human beings. When you're turning up the volume on your TV, people put it at, 10 and 15 and 25. Nobody puts the volume at 33, for example, as a round number like that. And whole numbers end up being even numbers is the way it works. So human psychology, all these things start to come into that.
Thank you. So when it comes to the window, can I put an alert or sound or something when new stock is coming into the panel?
On the top list, no. On an alert window, yes.
Okay. So
on
I
the
need to copy the strategy to the alert window or something?
Yes. So what you could do is this, and this is always my suggestion to anybody, especially when they're first taking a top list over to an alert window. Start a new alert window, can be in a blank alert window. It doesn't have anything, and it have to be anything special. And then Scott, I see your question. The answer is no, and I'll go into more detail in a minute about the Holly thing, because Holly's a black box. She's only going to look at her stuff. So if we right click and we go to collaborate here, and the collaborate feature can work in a lot of ways, not just what I'm showing here, but we can make multi windows, which are multiple alert windows in at the same time. But so let me show that again. Right click the top list, go to collaborate, highlight this here, all right, and copy it. Then come to the alert window, right click and come to collaborate in the alert window. And you got to get rid of what's in there. You'll have to re-highlight it. You're going to paste what you copied and you're going to press OK. Now, this alert window will be shorts feeling the pain. When I go into the configure, watch this. Summary is now shorts feeling the pain on that. It was just a default window before. And if we come to the window specific filters, all the shorts feeling the pains are in here. What we now need to do is find an alert, because if we look here, all right, I'm going to take a screenshot of this to show you. Where are you? Okay. So now if we look here, we've got the selected alerts tab in the alert configuration. If we look back in here in the top list configuration, top list, there is no selected alerts. Okay. Just jumps right to Windows specific filters. So we need to now find a selected alert here. All right. So I'm going to get rid of that again. We're going to go back into the configure, and the alerts all have these single icons like this versus the filters have the double icons like this, meaning minimum and maximum value for the filter, where the alerts have these. Now, some have actual filters in them. So if I were to add this alert, we can see that there's some alert specific filters, but we won't get into that right now. I don't want to pile on too much, but just I want so you're aware that this exists. I always suggest to someone when they're first going to convert a window over, you want to decide most of the time between either new high on the day, or I would say one of the other highs here, 5, 10, 15, 30, or 60. Obviously 5 is going to be the one that comes through the most, 10, 15, and 30 minutes, all follow in order. The 5-minute high might give you too many alerts, too many false signals. It might not either, but the new high alert might also not give you enough signals because the stock may, for example, a stock could make a big move on a day, all right, move up, make a big pullback, and then all of a sudden it starts to make another nice move up, but you're not going to get another alert till it takes out the old high on the day. And, you could get that, could make a new high, let's say in the first 20, 30 minutes of the day, it falls. It's one of those ones that everybody thought might be a runner. It had some news, who knows, right? And it falls and comes back down and it bases all day long. And then all of a sudden at 2:30, 3 o'clock, it starts creeping up. And then, all of a sudden 3:15, it explodes. But it explodes still below where it had been before. And that's why I recommend those 5-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute highs or 30-minute highs like that. And so you'd simply come into the configure and, look that up, 5-minute high, for example, again. And I click that and I go add alert, and I'm going to put a check mark in there. The heartbeat can be okay. Here's the deal with the heartbeat, though. It's a very old function of the software from before Top List actually existed with a 30-second update. The heartbeat sent out a pulse every 5 minutes to bring back stocks that meet the criteria of the scan. And so that's how that worked like that. So, you could use the heartbeat, but I think you're better served with the 5-minute high on the alert window personally than the heartbeat, because while the heartbeat has that 5-minute pulse, the 5-minute high will alert if the filters are met, and then the current 5-minute candle is taking out the high of the previous 5-minute candle. And that could happen within the first minute of a 5-minute candle, giving you the alert sooner, if that's what we were looking for, than the heartbeat actually would. And so we just, uncheck the heartbeat, we check the 5-minute high there, we press OK. And now we can see that this short's feeling the pain has become an alert window with a 5-minute high as the alert trigger, and we still hold all the filters that we previously had. And you can do that with any of the top lists. The other thing I want to just mention, in case you aren't aware or anybody else isn't aware, the channels can't be edited in the sense that it saves it to the channel, because we hold the channels on a web server our side and push them out to all users. So if you ever edit any of the channels, just go ahead and save it as a layout, actually. So, you edit the channels, you do whatever you wanted to change in there. You change the chart, you change the scan, you change whatever you wanted in that channel. All you do is come to File, Save or Share to Cloud. You'll click Entire Layout, and then you can give it a name here, whatever you want to call it, call it My Short Channel. And then simply press save, and then you'd have it in your cloud, and you'd find it, file, load from cloud, and it'll be here. I didn't save it, but it'll be there for you with all those changes that you had exactly as you had saved it like that too. Just in case you're making a change and you're like, gee, it didn't, take that change. That's why that the channels, like I said, were hold on our side.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course. If there's anything I didn't answer or you want some more in depth, let me know. And I'm just going to circle to Scott real quick. So he'd asked, is it possible to use Holly to get an entry and exit price on your Lynx symbols? Unfortunately not. There's no way to feed Holly at this time. There might be something in the future. I can't say. We actually have hired a new developer to rework all of Holly. and really try to take her to the next level again. For whatever reason, the hopper that we have that does the optimization and back testing, for some reason, over the last 6 years, it's been great, or 5.5 years, it's been great. In the last 3 months, we're not getting results out of it like we had been for so long. So we went out, we found someone who really specializes in machine learning a little more than what we already have here, try to get Holly working a little better. And that's, that, just to touch on that really quick. What you can do is, if you ever have a strategy that you like, you can create a symbols list and feed that strategy the symbols. So I've done that in the past, especially with my automated trading, where I've gone through charts at the end of the night with different evening scans that I have. And I said, boy, I like this chart, I like that chart. And you can see I use the heart here. And so I would like, a few charts, and then I would attach to an alert window, very simple alert window, something like I want to see, X amount of shares traded to make sure the stock is still liquid today. Maybe it's taking out a certain position and range from yesterday with a new high on the day today. And that would be the trigger in my automation to get me in. So while it's not exactly the same idea as Holly, it's me curating, stocks to a strategy to an alert window I've created. And you can make, obviously, that as simple or as complicated as you want. So hopefully, I wish I could tell you, yes, you could feed Holly symbols, but unfortunately at this time, not possible. Making sure, did I miss anything here? I think I covered what everybody's been asking so far. If I didn't cover something, let me know.
When you said that Holly hasn't been performing as well lately, the last 3 months, in what regards? Are you talking about how she checks all of the strategies for potential use for the next day? She's not picking the right ones?
No, it seems her alerts just are not nearly as quality as I was one of the very early adopters in Holly. So, and I used her a lot when I was first learning to trade. I used her a lot, not so much on the alerts that she had, because I started with a very, very small account. And so I was really trading smaller price stocks, trying to really stick to stocks that were between $5 and $25. And so, while there's nothing wrong with the higher price stocks, it was just, taking 10 shares of something that was, $75 didn't make any sense for me with my account size. But what I did with Holly was, was she putting on a bunch of long trades? Were they working? Did that I was using it in that sense to say, hey, Holly's got everything kind of working on the long side today. It looks like it's a risk on kind of day. I'm going to let my positions have a little more freedom, or, geez, Holly keeps getting stopped out or reduced risk, or her long trades aren't really working out today. And it would be a mix. There was never 100% day winning, 100% day losing, but it was always, if you took 10 days, there was definitely more gains than losses over it on an overall perspective, over a 10-day, 15-day, 20-day. Since about the beginning of February, she just has not performed overall on these alerts as I've witnessed for so many years. And it's been kind of an internal question of what's going on. And we don't want to manipulate either, because, there's a machine learning aspect that is inside there. What it is, we have these base strategies. We fed the base strategies into this thing called Hopper. It does all these simulations overnight and then tweaks each of the filters slightly. Some filters can't be tweaked because, for example, Mighty Mouse is looking at stocks that are lower price. So obviously you don't want the price filter tweaked above X amount, because otherwise you lose the purpose of the name of the strategy, Mighty Mouse. But with the exceptions of those few items that are in there, they're components of the stops that get tweaked. There are components of the exits that get tweaked, and then it gets put into effect with that strategy the next day. It's just not quite the same. I mean, I'm looking at today here, and one of the things I do look at always is this max profit column. I think that's a big deal to look at, because I've always maintained, and so is Jamie Hodge has always been a big proponent of this, that Holly makes some really great entries. They move up nice. Her exits leave something to be desired. And the reason why the exits are tough for us is because we don't hold the orders on our side, so we don't put the logic to hold the orders on our side, regardless of whether it's if someone's trading it live or not, because we have to have it for that option. And brokers can't calculate a moving average for a stop like this. So the only way for us to do it is if we hold the orders, which we can't currently do. There's several reasons between regulations and technology that we can't. So the orders go out to the broker right away like this. So we have to consider that with the stops that are always put in Holly, whether someone's automated or not in that regard. And so that's why I look at the max profit always. So we can see here, this had a max profit of 114 today. So it was a trade that definitely worked out at one point, and then unfortunately reversed. And, when I see that, that's a little more encouraging than some of the stuff I've seen, but I've seen a lot of max profit column days where when I see less than $50 on all of these, because I'm basing it risking $100. When I see less than $50 on it, it's like, was there really any chance to have made money on that alert? Take a look at this one really fast here. So now this one, it gave you a chance to make a few dollars on it. Nothing crazy, but it certainly, never put you in pain on the trade and moved up. So today wasn't as bad actually as I thought it was. Now, for someone that's in automation, they'd say, well, it was terrible. But, before I came to work here, they never wanted to put Holly in automation. And then shortly before I came, they allowed it to happen because of, popular demand, under the caveat that they never intended automation with Holly to be, I press play, I go drop the kids off at school, play a quick 9 holes with my friends, have lunch, stop at the bank, pick the kids up from school, come home and count the money that Holly made me. That was never the intention of Holly at any point ever. Unfortunately, people are going to interpret things however they want to. But, so when you look at, this conservative profit today, the moderate profit, it looks terrible. But had I been actually managing along, there's not an unmanageable amount of trades here. Actually, it wasn't a bad day for Holly if I was playing along with this, being up, this looks like it was an okay alert on this short here. Yeah, I mean, that was, a really nice alert on the short overall, kept working. This here, got the buy, and you had plenty of time to get in and out of that trade, making a move on that there. These two were never in the money, but 2 for 2 there, 2 out of 4, excuse me. Here, let's take a look on Nickelback. You had a few chances to get in the money. You certainly felt a little pain coming down to the side, but you had a chance way up here that you sat in the money for a little bit. And HXL, excuse me. This one, yeah, oh, sorry, this was one of the ones we looked at for. Same thing again, you didn't have a ton of time in it, but some trades you have more or less. This is the other thing I tell people to consider with Holly too. The strategies weren't created for any one person. They were a strategy that was created, back tested, it looked good in a back test, good enough in a back test where it triggered enough trades that worked for periods of time intraday that it went into the hopper. Versus me, the strategies that I create are based on how I like to actually trade. So you have to consider that none of these, when they were created, were based on how you or your uncle or your sister or your brother actually like to trade. And so some of these are going to find faster moving things. Some of them are going to find slower moving things. And that's something to always consider when you're working off a strategy that you didn't create. And you can't look all the way inside. Now we can see with Holly, where are you? Support, open a new tab. We can see Holly's, some of the base strategies, what they're looking for in them in the AI descriptions, and get a feel for some of that in there. But when you're looking at stocks that have made a big move in, let's say 15 minutes or 5 minutes, those are stocks that are probably going to be faster to exit as well, versus something that's maybe it was looking for something to base and moving up like that. Or here another bond shorty has to do with the S&P 500, and we know that depending on which direction the S&P is moving, how well that short strategy may end up doing as well. And so these are things to consider that we can hold in a tab and take a look at and understand what each one of these ones is doing when we get the signal or the alert if Holly's something that we're looking at. So just I guess a little spiel there on Holly. I went off on a tangent, I apologize. So We got a couple of minutes before I have to vamoose for the day. Is there anything we didn't touch on or something else we want to hit before I step out for the day here?
Chris, what are the shaded areas in the graphs like the, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about, so in here, it's going to be a kind of a dual shaded. One's darker than the other. So that has to do with the Holly trade itself. And so this is where she was in conservative mode, that darker shade. And this is just indicating, I guess you'd call it moderate or aggressive. I hate aggressive, just so everybody's aware. Hate that we show that. Is an internal battle of mine. We should never show that. Aggressive is trading without a stop, which is absolutely not trading. Aggressive is gambling. With that said, moderate is, fair enough. Some people have a strategy, time strategies hold to the end of the day, and that's what a moderate would mean. So that's what it's showing. Also, in case anybody's ever wondering, the exit reason is always going to be conservative because moderate means exit on the close. Technically, it's an exit at 3:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the close. So it's always going to be like that tomorrow. It's always going to be a close like that because we never carry into tomorrow for the moderate on that exit. And also, so the exit time will also always be a conservative exit too, just so you're clear for all that. And that's what that is. There's also in properties, we can add, why can I not add properties, show smart risk levels? That's odd.
So I always have a little shaded, it's a smaller area
Yes,
on the right side.
that's the smart risk levels in property. Here we go. Looks like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just our smart. It's going to be based on if you made an entry at the current price essentially, and where your risk is. It's just set up for a 2-for-1 risk essentially.
Well, using whether I make an entry or not.
What's that?
It's there whether I make an entry or not. There's a,
Yeah, it's just there as a guiding. If you did make it, it's a hypothetical where you would be based on that. So you can always, if you want to get rid of that, you can go to properties and go to show smart levels and uncheck that, and that'll be gone.
Is there a way just to show a single gap candle?
No.
Okay, that's okay. So one thing about that shaded area is it has the target, the suggested target, I guess the smart target, right?
Yeah.
So, but I can't find that when I actually go to do a target instruction in the trade instructions. I can't find the smart target.
It's actually just the smart stop times 2 is what it's going to be. So, I mean, if it was something you really wanted to do, we can get you we can do a custom filter for you and place it into your cloud, and then you could find it in Brokerage Plus that way. Just send us an email so we can stick that in your cloud.
It's the smart stop times 2, but it's got to be based on
it's based on ATR and volatility is what the smart stop's based on. So there's a volatility component in there, and then and an ATR component. There's a formula with that I think Dan actually created, if I'm not mistaken.
So you literally take the smart stop price and you just multiply it by 2, and that's your smart target?
Then that's a smart target, exactly.
It's that simple. Okay.
That simple. But the complicated part is the formula that gets the smart stop. Thanks, Shannon. Yes. All right. So I'm gonna walk us out now. I just realized it's 4:30. So I will not be here Thursday. I had to cancel that. I couldn't find a coverage for that. And my regular 3:30s for YouTube tomorrow and Friday also as well. I won't be. I'll be in DC at a symposium for this Charter Market Technician Association. But don't forget, the support there's also still the noon sessions that'll go on during the week, and Barry in the trading room, as long as he's not tied up with trading and things, is also a good resource during the rest of the day. Support SUPPORT at trade-ideas.com. All right, hit us there if you need. need anything other than that, and I will be back next week. And then Craig, if you continue to have trouble with that, Brokerage Plus, send an email into that support and say, hey, look, I tried a strategy XYZ ABC, and they're going to ask for some support files, and they'll take a look behind it. Because those messages that I showed you before, where's my Brokerage Plus window? Where are you? There it is. These messages here, there's actually a document that continuously runs in your trade ideas folder that has more of these messages attached to it that'll give us a snapshot on the inside. So if you continue to have issues with that, send us an email, say, hey, listen, I'm trying to send these to the broker, these orders, but I'm not sure what's going on. And you say I've sent my support files, if someone can take a look for me. And to send your support files, you do that by going to help, send files to support, and you'll click OK, and it should return something that looks like this right afterwards. Where are you? There we go. The file blah, 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 blah has been uploaded. You press OK, and then they'll be able to get to it from there and take a look at exactly what's happening, that you are not, your order's not being sent through, whether it's being rejected by the broker or the account wasn't attached. It tells us all the details in there.
But basically, as long as an alert is either in your docked window or in your layout, you should be able to right click and use that alert to do your trade. And if you want to automate your alert, you need to have it in the strategy box itself.
It needs to be in the strategy box no matter what. The difference is the enable and the not enable. The enable, see, watch this here. When I right click, if I click strategy disabled, click to enable, that means I'm turning it on for automation. And it's going to have these trading instructions in here. If it has an entry time and an end time, a start time for the strategy and an end time, when it can send the alerts, send symbols at most once per day from the alert window, send send it if I have a position or don't have a position, all these order details here. It'll send the automated alerts based on all this stuff here. If you have a time hold, don't have a time hold, all those things like that, as far as the automation goes. But if you want, whether it's through here, trade here, all right, you'll still have to have something loaded here, whether you want to, redo one of these ones here, or you can even right click and you can go new trading strategy. And then, you give it a name, whatever you want. Mine just happens to be a default like that.
It will still send the trade.
It should still send the trade. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. So, all right. Thanks everybody. And I will catch you next week. All right.